All right, everyone, welcome back to the Land of Chem. I am your host and the author. My name is Jeffrey Drum. Thank you all so much for joining me again. All right, everyone, welcome back. This is episode 137, and today I will be discussing my favorite element of the overall hypothesis presented here on the Land of Chem, with a detailed investigation of the White Horse lightning storm generator hills of Wiltshire, England. If this is the type of content you're interested in regarding the ancient technology of a lost civilization utilizing physics and chemistry, and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world, this is the channel for you. So please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube, and don't forget to click that little notification bell so that you do not miss the new episodes that premiere twice per week. Please like, comment, share, and stay tuned. If you want to help support this channel and get access to exclusive research and unreleased footage that you will not see anywhere else, check out the Land of Chem members only channel and thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some merch. Today I'm wearing, of course, the beautiful new White Horse logo. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @thelandofchem. Also, don't forget, after you finish watching this video, please go subscribe to our two new channels here on YouTube, Egyptian Trash Cats, for all you cat lovers out there, and Egypt Eats for food reviews. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that is it for today's intro. So without further ado, let's get right to it. And just a quick reminder, the second 2024 Land of Chem Ancient Alchemy and Ascension Tour is on, and a few bookings are still available. But the deadline for reservations is coming up soon at the end of August, and the time to make moves on this is now. So if you are interested in coming to Egypt to see the pyramids for yourself, including special permission access to Abu Sir and a private entry into all three chambers of the Great Pyramid of Giza at night during this epic adventure experience coming up in early winter later this year, please send me an email to contact@thelandofchem.com with the subject line Egypt Tour 3, and I will send you the full tour itinerary and pricing details. Thank you all so much, and I will see you soon here in the Land of Chem. All right, everyone, here we go with tonight's episode. Now, to begin, the White Horse is a profound esoteric symbol that permeates ancient mythology from across the planet with direct connections to lightning. As stated here, in more than one tradition, the White Horse bursts into existence in a fantastic way, emerging from the sea or from a lightning bolt. In Zoroastrianism, one of the three representations of Tistria, the hypostasis of the star Sirius, is that of a white stallion. White horses are also said to draw divine chariots, representing various forms of water. Her four horses are named wind, rain, clouds, and sleet. Islamic culture tells of a white creature named Al-Burak, who brought Muhammad to Jerusalem during the night. The Burak, Al-Burak, meaning lightning, is a supernatural winged horse-like creature in Islamic tradition that served as the mount of the Islamic prophet Muhammad. Again, Al-Burak, meaning lightning, isn't mentioned in the Quran, but in some Hadith traditions, they envisage that the Mahdi will appear riding a white horse. From the Encyclopedia of Islam, referring to the writings of Al-Damiri, considers Al-Burak to be a derivative and adjective of Arabic barq, lightning, or emitted lightning. A huge white horse appears in Korean mythology in the story of the Kingdom of Silla. The white horse emerged from a bolt of lightning. And in episode 106, I explained how this alchemical emblem of the white horse was emblazoned upon the white chalk surfaces of 9 hillsides in Wiltshire, England, and revealed my hypothesis describing how these chalk hillsides were engineered to cyclically generate cumulonimbus lightning storm clouds, beginning with Cheryl Hill, located right here, in very close proximity to the Avebury Serpent Temple complex and Stonehenge, a critical detail that I will get to at the end of the episode. And here you can see an aerial view of the site, a structure that was created directly from the white chalk bedrock that composes these 9 hillsides, with 3 major components. First, the scalloped, horseshoe-shaped, sloping hillside with abundant evidence of water erosion flowing down the surface. Second, the reservoir enclosure on a relatively flat area at the top of the hill, with 2 openings, one here and one here, that feed directly into the flow patterns leading down the hillside. And third, at the highest apex of the chalk hill, a standing stone or obelisk. Now, a quick note about the Lansdowne obelisk before we proceed. The obelisk as it stands today is a relatively modern addition to the site, erected in 1845 by the Marquis of Lansdowne to commemorate his ancestor, Sir William Petty. However, during our private, special permission access to Merlin's Mound at the Marlborough College, as you will see in just a moment, the campus administration team told us that the obelisk itself is hollow, and it is believed to encapsulate and mark the spot where an ancient stone pillar was once erected. And the Marquis of Lansdowne and his predecessor, Sir William Petty, were no ordinary gentlemen. As you can see here, Sir William Petty was a founding member of the Royal Society, the oldest perpetually existing scientific academy in the world, a division of which is the Royal Society of Chemistry, whose members are known to have a long lineage connecting them back to the alchemists of the medieval period. So there is an ancient legacy of scientific knowledge associated with the Royal Society and its founders. And although there are no inscriptions on the obelisk itself, a draft was found indicating Lansdowne's plan for memorializing his ancestor, Sir William Petty, as stated here. To the memory of Sir William Petty, Knight, son of John Petty Clothier, to whose exalted understanding and indefatigable industry this country is indebted, for the foundation of science which he laid, and his family, not less for the example which he gave, than for the inheritance he bequeathed them. This obelisk is dedicated by his grateful descendant, Henry Marquis of Lansdowne. So today, I will reveal the exalted understanding and the foundation of science that was passed down to his family, that is now encoded in the Lansdowne obelisk and the Cheryl white horse. So here you can see the full scope of the Cheryl down, including the inscribed white horse that was carved out of this chalk hillside, the scalloped, sloping hill face, and the towering obelisk rising over everything else on the landscape. And here is a picture from my 2023 expedition to England and Ireland as we prepared to hike to the top of the Cheryl Down. This was an unexpected addition to the itinerary as we spotted this colossal obelisk from the Avebury Sanctuary and decided that we had to see it up close. And I'm glad we did, because this site expedition completely changed my understanding of and appreciation for the overwhelmingly brilliant knowledge of physics and chemistry possessed by the ancient civilization that terrain engineered these chalk hillsides. And as we approach the top, you can really see these scalloped, water-eroded flow patterns leading down the side of the hill. And my wife Alexa and I both immediately noticed that there was something very unusual and unnatural about the sloped depressions etched out of this chalk hillside. And reaching the apex, a spectacular view of the obelisk, illuminated from behind in sunlight, which, looking back at it now, is absolutely perfect given what I now know about the function of these structures. And the full, exclusive footage from this site visit was released on the members-only channel in episode 3. Now, let's move on to a quick review of how these White Horse Hills generated cumulonimbus lightning storm clouds, which involves a chemical reaction that produces a circulation of hot, moist air rising up into the atmosphere. This is exactly how cumulonimbus clouds form naturally. And as you can see here, these sweeping hot air fronts occur in nature off the surface of hills. And step 1 in engineering and constructing these lightning storm generators is selecting a hillside where these cumulonimbus clouds occur naturally in abundance, a perfect place being the chalk hills of Wiltshire, England. These hills also have subsurface water currents running below the structure. As you can see here, there are several water pumping stations located at the bottom of Cherrill Hill. And these subterranean mineral-rich streams and aquifers are directly associated with telluric currents, as presented in many previous episodes, a factor known to be connected to the location for lightning strikes. So within the chalk hills of Wiltshire, England, we have the ideal scenario for the occurrence of natural lightning storms. These White Horse generators were constructed upon these hilltops to perpetuate the cycle of harnessing naturally occurring lightning to then generate more cumulonimbus cloud storms. So here we have telluric currents producing dielectric polarization of the chalk bedrock, resulting in the accumulation of positive charges on the top surface of the hill. This is a naturally occurring phenomenon that results in lightning being attracted to these sites. And I've had tons of people from the UK reach out to confirm that they have watched lightning storms moving across these hillsides in their backyards even to this day. And with some simple terrain engineering and modification, the voltage from lightning strikes was utilized by this ancient civilization to generate more cumulonimbus lightning storm clouds. So when lightning struck the standing stone at the apex of the hill, the electric current was distributed into the chalk bedrock of the hillside, transforming the calcium carbonate chalk into calcium oxide and releasing carbon dioxide. The calcium oxide was thus prepared and ready and could be chemically activated whenever the next storm was required, simply by adding water. A process that you can see here, where the flooded reservoir at the top of the hill is opened down toward the hillside, allowing water to flow down the surface of the hill. That resulted in these scalloped formations that we can see today. The water reacts with the calcium oxide in a highly exothermic reaction that produces calcium hydroxide and releases heat. The wind, then sweeping off the surface of the hill, circulates that hot air front into the atmosphere, just like it would naturally, as these sweeping hot air fronts circulated into the atmosphere create the next cumulonimbus lightning storm cloud. And I've said this from the very beginning, that these ancient structures were designed to work in conjunction with the forces of nature to achieve miraculous transformations. And that is exactly what they were doing here in the White Horse Hills of Wiltshire, England, thus generating the coveted white horse, the lightning storm cloud. And you can see here another angle of the Cherrill Down, featuring the white horse symbol and the obelisk. So now, let's evaluate the components of this terrain engineering structure, and then we will travel across Wiltshire, England, along the White Horse Trail to evaluate each location individually. So we have the scalloped, horseshoe-shaped sloping hillside that has direct evidence of water erosion flowing down the hillside. We have a relatively flat area at the top of the hill where the reservoir enclosure was constructed. And then at the apex, the highest point of the hillside, stands the obelisk. So next, we will explore the Westbury Bratton Camp White Horse Hill, located here, that you can see on the right. A spectacular example of all of the components I just explained, with the white horse emblazoned upon the white chalk hillside here, and the reservoir at the top, opening up directly into this huge horseshoe-shaped scalloped basin on the other side. And from Google Earth, looking at the white horse and the reservoir enclosure at the top of the hill. And from a different vantage, you can see how this reservoir opens up directly into this scalloped, sloping, horseshoe-shaped hillside. So your obelisk would have stood at the highest point of the hill here, and water flowed down the hillside, creating the scalloped features that you can see here, producing the exothermic chemical reaction, the heat from which was swept into the atmosphere to generate the coveted white horse cumulonimbus lightning storm cloud. As you can see here, again, these warm air fronts circulating into the atmosphere to generate these lightning storms. Next, on to the Hackpen White Horse, located here. And a few images of the chalk-inscribed white horse and the beautiful English countryside in the area. And let's evaluate the hillside that you can see here, which does feature some scalloped depressions and fluid erosion here. And pulling back, you can see the rather shallow hillside here with 3 unusual round earthwork mounds or enclosures here, here, and here at the top of the hillside. There are no traces that remain of the reservoir at this site, but this plot of modern farmland is directly where it would have been. And there are several marker stones in the area, one here, and one here, indicating the spot where the obelisk or standing stone once existed. And the water would have flowed down the hillside, producing these scalloped depressions, again, creating this exothermic chemical reaction, and the wind sweeping off the face of the hill into the atmosphere, generating the lightning storm cloud. Next, the Alton Barnes White Horse, located here. And a few images of the white horse inscribed upon this white chalk hillside. And the horse that you can see here was etched into the chalk bedrock of the Tuatha de Danann, a hill that snakes up around in this direction and back down in this direction, encircling this huge horseshoe-shaped scalloped hillside. And here is yet another piece of modern farmland sitting right on top of the ancient reservoir. And the obelisk would have stood here, a spot indicated by yet another marking stone, which is at the highest point of the Tuatha de Danann hillside, with the water flowing downhill out of the reservoir into the scalloped depressions on the hillside, producing the chemical reaction and circulating hot air fronts that generate the next lightning storm cloud. Next, the Pusey white horse, located here, and a few images of the white horse on yet another scalloped white chalk hillside. And this one took me a minute to decipher. As you can see here, this undulating hillside and this horseshoe-shaped scalloped area here. But as I pulled back on Google Earth, I noticed something even bigger. This huge scalloped basin over here that also features the water erosion scalloped pattern flowing down the hillside. And yet another perfectly placed piece of modern farmland in the exact location of the ancient reservoir. And the obelisk would have stood at the highest point of the landscape, with the water flowing from the reservoir down the hillside into this flood basin that you can see here. Again, creating the wind-blown, circulating hot air front that generated the lightning storm cloud. Next, the Divises white horse, located here, and an image of the white chalk horse, and the hillside here, looking rather inconspicuous at first, absent of all of the features that we have been investigating. But then I noticed this. A circular mound structure and enclosure right here on the edge of the hill. And pulling back just a little bit. Boom. Look at this immense series of horseshoe-shaped, scalloped hillsides with clear erosion patterns flowing down the surface. And again, unfortunately, we now have modern farmland that has destroyed the ancient earthwork reservoir, but we can still clearly see the function of this structure, with the obelisk located at the highest point on the hillside here, exactly where this mound and enclosure structure sits today, and the evidence of water flowing down the hillside into these scalloped channels from the reservoir at the top. And the water reacting with the calcium oxide to produce calcium hydroxide and heat that was then swept into the atmosphere by the wind to generate the white horse, the next lightning storm cloud. Moving on to the Broad Town horse, located right here, with an image of the chalk horse here, and this lengthy hillside spanning this entire area here. And you can see that the Broadtown white horse is in close proximity to the Hackpen white horse. So as the naturally occurring storm front moved across the Wiltshire countryside, there would be a system in the vicinity that could attract, capture, and recycle the electric current to perpetuate the storm cell. And a close-up on the chalk hillside here, with some scalloped depression features here and here, emanating from a flat area here on the top, where the water would have flown from the reservoir enclosure down the scallop features on the chalk hillside, again producing that circulating hot air front into the atmosphere that generated the subsequent lightning storm cloud system. Next, possibly one of my favorites, the Marlborough white horse, located here just outside of the Marlborough College campus. And this White Horse Hill is significant as it is directly associated with the magical structure known as Merlin's Mound. This proto-pyramid chalk mound is inaccessible to the public and located on the campus of Marlborough College. But my wife, Alexa, and I were able to obtain a private, special permission access to explore the mound. And the bewildering footage was presented in Sunday Site Visit 33, a Land of Chem exclusive. And ladies and gentlemen, if you are new to this channel and you haven't seen episodes like 106 or Sunday Site Visit 33 from Merlin's Mound, you are missing out on critical details of my work. So I highly recommend taking the time to work through the various playlists that I have created, or just choosing the one entitled All Episodes Starting from the Beginning so you can get caught up. So during this private visit to Merlin's Mound, we hiked up the spiral pathway leading to the top of the structure. That brings you to the basin component at the top, which you can see here. And if you look through these two trees, off into the distance, you can see the white chalk hillside and the Marlborough White Horse, a close-up of which you can see here. And this White Horse Hill is in a highly developed and urbanized area, right near a modern neighborhood and the Marlborough College campus, as you can see here. But after some close examination, I was able to decipher the landscape, and I found exactly what I was looking for. So pulling back a bit, the White Horse is located over here. And here, on this sloping, scalloped hillside, we have a neighborhood called the Holy Bench, which I believe is a direct reference to the plateau-like feature at the top of these hills where the reservoir once stood. And surprise, surprise, what do we have on top of the Holy Bench but a huge modern megachurch? And as we know throughout history, the Christians just love destroying and usurping these ancient structures, placing their own buildings directly on top of sacred sites, attempting to erase the legacy of power and knowledge that was held within these areas. And that is exactly what this chalk hill represented, both the power and knowledge of its builders. Using physics and chemistry to create a system that utilized water to produce the exothermic chemical reaction, the heat from which generated the sacred White Horse lightning storm cloud. And last but not least, the Uffington White Horse, my absolute favorite example of the White Horse lightning storm generator hills. Now keep in mind that all of the previously mentioned white horses were inscribed on these hills sometime between the 1600s and 1800s. And the conventional bullshit story is that they were inscribed to commemorate some historical occurrence. But now, with what we know these white horses truly symbolize, the utilization of this emblem dates back to the Bronze Age and the Uffington White Horse. And I would propose that the modern landowners of these hillsides were, quote unquote, in the know about the function of these hills. And as each one was discovered, they encoded the ancient knowledge of their operation by inscribing a white horse upon the face of the hill. Literally secrets in plain sight, doing exactly what their ancestors had done, tracing back to the Bronze Age, using the white horse emblem to encode the knowledge of the function of these sites. A direct indication that creating this symbol upon the hillside has nothing whatsoever to do with commemorating modern historical events, but it is directly related to communication through symbols to explain the function of these ancient terrain engineering structures. And you can see here an image of this ancient Bronze Age white horse. And here, the breathtaking, scalloped hillside upon which it is inscribed. Look at how blatantly obvious this site is. This structure also has a special feature, a smaller chalk proto-pyramid that you can see here that looks exactly like Silbury Hill, the largest man-made chalk proto-pyramid in Europe, a structure that was also designed to attract and harness lightning as presented in episode 106. And this chalk hill, attached to the Uffington White Horse Hill, is appropriately known as Dragon's Mound, and it is mythologically told to signify the site where St. George slayed a dragon, and this mound marks the spot where the dragon fell to earth. A dragon, you say? Sounds familiar, especially to those on the members-only channel, as in episode 6, I revealed the connections between the Avebury Serpent Temple complex and the Pyramid of Chichen Itza, where, on the spring equinox, the descent of the god Kukulkan is commemorated, the feathered serpent, the dragon, which symbolically represents the arrival of the cumulonimbus cloud storms that brought lightning and rain to the area, signifying the beginning of their agricultural season. Ladies and gentlemen, the serpent of Avebury, the plumed serpent god Kukulkan, and the dragon of Dragon's Mound are all ancient symbols of the feared and worshipped lightning god, the White Horse. So, of course, here at the Uffington White Horse Hill, we have the spot where the dragon fell to earth, attached directly to this White Horse lightning storm generator that has a brilliant demonstration of the scalloped, sloping hillside with clear water erosion. A perfect spot right here for the standing stone and the reservoir enclosure still intact. And here, from a different perspective, you can see that the reservoir enclosure is uphill. And if you follow the flow downhill from the two openings on each side of the enclosure, it will lead you directly to the flow patterns that brought water down the hillside, with one stream flowing downhill in this direction, leading directly to Dragon's Mound, and the others flowing downhill toward the scalloped white chalk hillside. And the water would transform the calcium oxide that was prepared by the initial electric current distribution into calcium hydroxide, releasing heat that is then swept and circulated into the atmosphere by the wind, thus generating the next cumulonimbus lightning storm cloud. So the question remains, why did they build so many of these lightning storm generators across the Wiltshire countryside? Well, remember from the beginning of the episode that these white chalk hills are in close proximity to other components of this massive landscape chemical engineering system, like Stonehenge, as you can see here, the function of which was explained in episode 115, to capture and distribute electric current from lightning strikes. But not only that, here, directly in the center of the White Horse lightning storm generator systems, we have the Avebury Serpent Temple Complex, the function of which was revealed in Members Only Episode 6, perhaps my most significant research episode to date, excluding the one that you are currently watching. And I explained the role of the Avebury Serpent Temple Complex as related to several other functional features in the area, such as Silbury Hill, Longstones Cove, the Sanctuary, and the West Kennet Long Barrow. as presented in episode 119, the function of the West Kennet long barrow regarding ultrasound crystallization. And again, if you are new to the channel, you have to go back and watch from the beginning or you are missing out on critical information. And most recently, in members only episode 14, entitled Telluric Currents and Lightning Experiments, I explained perhaps the most important role of these lightning storm generator systems, which is to stimulate telluric currents within the Earth's crust. As stated here, quote, "It is known that a significant part of telluric currents is caused by the excitation of the planet's magnetic field under the action of solar activity, as well as lightning discharges occurring on it at the current time. It is known that every second on Earth, from 400 to 4,000 lightning strikes occur from raging about 2,000 thunderstorms. These lightning strikes excite pulsations of telluric currents on the Earth's crust." Let me say that one more time. Lightning strikes excite pulsations of telluric currents of the Earth's crust. So, ladies and gentlemen, the White Horse Hills of Wiltshire, England, are self-stimulating, cyclical machines that harness the forces of nature to perpetuate the recurrence of these electrical discharge phenomena. So the White Horse Hills, ancient structures like Silbury Hill and Avebury, and the Great Pyramid of Giza were capturing telluric currents to attract lightning, and that lightning then augmented the telluric currents of the Earth, a perpetual cycle of circulating electric energy from the Earth to the structure and back into the Earth, to continuously generate the coveted white horse, the power source of the ancient structures across the planet, the lightning storm cloud. And coming up soon, I will explain exactly how this same knowledge of physics and chemistry applies directly to the lightning storm generator at the Great Pyramid of Giza. So please subscribe and stay tuned. All right, everyone, that is it for today's video. This was episode 137, the White Horse Lightning Storm Generator Hills of Wiltshire, England. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and in this week's Sunday site visit, we return to the place where it all began, the Red Pyramid of Dashur. If this is the type of content you're interested in regarding the ancient technology of a lost civilization utilizing physics and chemistry and the function of the Egyptian pyramids and other ancient structures from across the world, please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube. Click that little notification bell, like, comment, and stay tuned. If you want to help support the channel and get access to exclusive research like members only episode 14, Telluric Currents and Lightning Experiments, please subscribe to the Land of Chem members only channel or check out thelandofchem.com if you want to pick up a copy of the book or grab some merch. Links in the video description below. If you want to follow me on Instagram, my handle is @thelandofchem. Also, don't forget, after you finish watching this video, please go subscribe to our two new channels here on YouTube, Egyptian Trash Cats for all you cat lovers out there, and Egypt Eats for food reviews. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, thank you all so much for the support. I think that is it for today's episode, so I will see you next time. Yo, are you still watching this? Please subscribe to the Land of Chem here on YouTube and click that little notification button. New videos coming out every single week. And check out this other episode. Come on, do it. Do it now.